So you think your story is weird, and you're having that nagging feeling in the back of your mind telling you to change it, to change elements of your story because it's too weird. Because people will think it's different. Because people probably won't like it. Well, before you make any rash choices, how about you hear what I have to say on today's Writing Advice Q&A. Can a story be too weird? Is that even possible? What happens when you go beyond the constraints of the genre or even the medium that you're working with? Should you walk it back a little? Should you tone it down? What can you do? Well, first and foremost, thank you to the viewer who sent this question. So if you have a question, leave it in the comments down below. Now, before I go on with my formal advice, I want to remind you, as always, that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a silly person who has still got a little slowpoke on their shoulder. Now, can a story be too weird? I believe that at the crux of this particular problem is the issue of voice. Now, fun fact, I actually spent like 40 minutes, almost an hour, looking for the source of this quote. I couldn't find it. I don't know where I heard it. I might have heard it secondhand from someone else, talking about someone else. But I'm gonna tell you like I heard it. I heard this quote, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it at hand, but I heard from who I believe to have been Edmund McMillen, the creator of a video game I very much enjoy called The Binding of Isaac. And most of you, or some of you will remember because I played a bunch of that game on this channel a long time ago, and I freaking love that game. But that game is very weird. If you don't know what it's about, and you pause the video to Google it, you have come back and you have seen like the Steam page, and you know, dang, that looks weird. Somewhere, I think it might have been an interview or in a video that he did, Edmund McMillen, the lead designer and creator and art designer for that game, he talked about the doubt that he felt when designing that game. Because he wanted the game to have very, very strong themes of Christian mythology. And there's a lot of that in that game. But during the process of literally developing angels and demons as your antagonists, he felt a sense of doubt inside of him. What if people hate it? What if people think it's too weird? And he describes in this quote that, for all I know, may all just be a figment of my imagination. I couldn't find the source for this. It's terrible. He talks about how every time he feels that sense of dread, that fear, it's coming in response to his voice, to the way that he creates things, to the unique, you could almost say the soul to the way you create stories. And that resonated with me, and I've carried it ever since I heard it probably like 7 years ago. When we create things, we create them with our own voice and the way that we tell stories. And I have felt this sense of dread, especially with this story that I'm writing right now, in which I'm writing the story, and there's a certain theme, a certain element, a certain character, and I can feel it inside of me. Someone is not gonna like this. Someone's gonna think that this is too weird. Someone's gonna think that is too bizarre, too out there. What genre is this book even? I don't know. But I felt an overpowering feeling inside of me. Greater than that dread, greater than that doubt. And it was, and if you excuse the colorful language, it was the strongest sense of disgust inside of me. The idea that I would silence my voice, that I would change it, tune it, tone it down, walk it back, just to make sure that I wouldn't inconvenience anyone. And I despise that, because I enjoy my stories, and they're a part of how I have fun. And if you follow this channel, then you know I love character and I love stories. And I feel, and I felt, and I feel now still, that anything to walk back what I'm writing would be an injustice to myself and to the story. Without getting very meta about things, sometimes stories choose us. We seldom choose stories. And I feel that the goal of a writer is to capture the story and to write it down as truthfully as it comes to you. And to change that, to silence it, to censor it, that's a crime right there. I would never want to do that. So that quote resonated with me. Voice. What is your voice? And why do you hesitate? Why do we hesitate? The opinions of others. Fears of a book's success, of a story. You know, it's really easy for people to dismiss things. But I want to inspire you today to let that weirdness be weird. To not silence your story and to commit to the story that you have in front of you. Now, before I go on any further, there's a couple of things I gotta tackle. Because I think the last time I talked about this was way back in the Tumblr days. And I got a bunch of messages from people who misunderstood my message. So, allow me to clarify. When I talk about letting your voice ring true, I'm not talking about doing everything you want to do and whatever you want to do because you can do whatever you want and that's okay. That's a really heavy-handed way of translating my thoughts. I'm talking about the act of telling the story. Telling the story as it comes to you truthfully, without fear and doubt. I'm not talking about, well, since I can do whatever I won't edit my story. Well, if I can do whatever I want, I can just add random things to the story and I don't have to explain them or anything. That's not what I'm talking about here. It's not about random stuff happening. It's about being true to the story. And if the story does happen to involve random stuff happening, then I guess you can commit to that. But commit to that story, to telling it as it comes to you, truthfully, without fear, without question, and commit to revising this story and making it the best it can possibly be. I know that I talk a lot about revision in this channel, and I do it, one, because I freaking love revision, and secondly, because I know that writing channels seldom talk about it, and I understand why. People who are looking for writing advice on YouTube or, on the internet are mostly people who are getting started with writing. And that's okay. And you're probably one of those right now. And that's fine. And I hope that you have fun writing and that you push through and get this book written so you can revise it. But I can't overlook the fact that revision is also a very important part of writing. I feel, and I'm sure that some of you out there can relate to this, think of the story ideas, the stories that you read, you consumed, you watched, the movies you watched, the games you played, in which it had a really awesome idea, awesome characters, but the execution was not really good at all. It was actually bad. Characters, situations were unfulfilling to you. Even those really weird stories that seemed amazing and seemed completely different and unique to the things you have come to experience. A new take on fantasy, a new take on science fiction, a new type of story. And sometimes they land on their feet, and sometimes they don't. I feel that the line between the ones that land on their feet and the ones that land off the line, I guess, and into the bottomless pit of despair, are those that revised gracefully. For those of you who are very astute readers, you will notice that the title for this video has two things I haven't touched on yet. Tone, theme, and commitment. When you are in the act of writing the story, I would like to inspire you to focus on commitment. Commit to writing that story as it comes to you, honestly. No fear, no doubt. When the time comes for revision, stay committed. Do not walk back. Commit to the story, but focus on its tone and its theme. Things don't seem random when everything works together. Even the weirdest, the most bizarre story that you can think of can still make sense. As long as its tone, the general feeling that the narration and the characters and the events evoke, as well as the themes, the overarching elements that, in a way, summarize the story. When those make sense, when they are not unique elements, each an island of its own, but rather two gears of a same machine, it doesn't seem that weird. Things like Alice in Wonderland seem to make sense because that world, no matter how weird it is, it makes sense for that world. The Binding of Isaac is a strange world, but somehow within its mechanics and its storytelling, it makes sense. to be fighting these creatures, to be this bizarre monster. And no matter how strange it is, or bizarre even, stories like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure resonate with a reality of its own that is so weird and removed from what we know that it still somehow makes sense. And it doesn't seem that unreal once you're knee-deep in that story. But anyhow, I've gone on for way too long. To summarize my thoughts really quickly, if you're writing or revising and you feel that sense of dread inside of you telling you to change elements of your story, to back down, tone it down, on elements in your story that may seem too weird, too strange, too outside of your genre, I would like to inspire you to, if you are in the middle of the first draft, if you are writing right now, ignore that voice. Ignore it entirely. Get that book written. It is the only thing that matters. Once the moment for revision comes, then you can analyze those feelings. Does this make sense for the story's tone? Does it resonate the same feeling in the narration, the character dialogue, their interactions, and the events? Does it make sense for the overarching element that is the story's theme? If it does, and if it's all notes in the same melody, then keep it. If not, change it. And if it doesn't work at all, remove it. It doesn't matter how weird it is. It doesn't matter how bizarre it may seem to you. If you can make it work, then work it. And if it doesn't, toss it. As with any other part of the revision process, if it doesn't work for the story, then it simply doesn't belong there. As simple as that. But that is a choice that you can only make once you are revising. Wait until you're done writing. For now, keep on writing, keep on moving forward, and I hope that you enjoyed this particular video. I am most likely going to be having some future videos on more tone and theme advice. But until then, I want to thank you for tagging along. On the screen right now, a playlist, a button to subscribe, a button to check out my Patreon and learn how you can get cool perks and support my videos, and a button to my other channel with my best friend Kitty, where we are very, very, very silly people. Thank you for tagging along. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. And keep on writing, writerly friend. Keep on writing.